Welcome back to The Explainer. So let's talk about profit. I mean, where does it really come from? Today, we're going to dive deep into Karl Marx's Capital to explore his idea of surplus value, what he saw as the secret engine driving the whole economy. We'll break down how it all works, starting with just one person's workday and scaling all the way up.
Okay, so where's all this extra value hiding? Well, for Marx, it all starts with the workday. And here's the thing. He says it's not what you think it is. It's not just one big chunk of time you get paid for. No, he argues it's actually split into two very different and very crucial parts.
Right, so to get our heads around the big picture, the total profit of a whole company, we've got to zoom way in. We're talking about a single worker's day. Because according to Marx, that's where it all begins. It's the basic building block.
So here's the split. You've got what he calls necessary labor. Think of this as the time you're working just to cover your own wages, to earn your keep. But you don't stop there, do you? The rest of the day, that's what he calls surplus labor. And get this, that's the time you're essentially working for free, creating pure profit for your boss.
Okay, let's put some numbers on this. Imagine a 12-hour workday. Pretty standard back then. For the first, say, 6 hours, you're doing that necessary labor. You've earned your 3 shillings, your wage for the day. You're all square, but you're only halfway done. Those next 6 hours, that's all surplus labor. You're producing another 3 shillings worth of value, but that money isn't going into your pocket. Nope, it's going straight to the capitalist. That's the surplus.
Now, Marx wasn't just telling a story here. He was a numbers guy. He wanted to pin this down, to actually measure it. He developed a way to turn this whole idea into a cold, hard number.
And he calls it the rate of surplus value. It's basically just a ratio that compares the unpaid work to the paid work. For Marx, this wasn't just some abstract economic thing. It was a mathematical formula for exploitation. So back to our 12-hour day. You've got 6 hours of work for yourself and 6 hours for the boss. Well, that means the rate of surplus value is a whopping 100%. 100%. It means for every single minute you work to pay your own bills, you're working another minute purely for your employer's profit. And here's the math. It's super simple. You just take the surplus labor time and divide it by the necessary labor time. Boom, that's the rate. And according to Marx, this little formula, it's the secret engine that powers the whole system. Okay, so we've got it down for one worker. But what happens when you have a whole factory full of people? This is where we zoom back out and talk about the mass of surplus value. And yeah, the mass of surplus value is pretty much what it says on the tin. It's the grand total, all the little bits of surplus value from every single worker, all added up into one big pile.
The way you figure it out is super straightforward. You take that surplus value created by one person, remember our 3 shillings, and you just multiply it by the number of people working. And there you have it, the total mass of surplus value.
So this all boils down to a really important formula. The total mass of surplus, let's call it S, is the rate of exploitation times the total amount of money spent on wages, what Marx called variable capital, or V. So check this out. Total profit really depends on just 2 things, how hard you push each worker and how many workers you've got.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because that formula basically gives the capitalist 2 big levers they can pull to crank up the profit. They can either hire more people or they can squeeze more out of the people they already have.
So that begs a really important question, right? Could a capitalist make the exact same amount of money with half the workforce? Well, Marx says, yep, absolutely. But there's a catch.
Let's look at how that works. In scenario A, you've got 100 workers and they're producing 150 shillings of surplus. Now check out scenario B. The capitalist cuts the workforce in half, down to just 50 people, but, and this is the key, they crank up the rate of exploitation to 100% by making them work longer days. And what's the result? The exact same 150 shillings of surplus value. Wild, right? But you can't just keep doing that forever. Marx points out there are, as he puts it, impassable limits. You can stretch the workday, sure, but you can't stretch it past 24 hours. A day is still a day. There's a hard physical wall you're going to hit.
Okay, all of this leads to maybe the biggest twist in the whole chapter. It's a complete flip and inversion of how we usually think about work, people, and machines.
Okay, get your head around this. We normally think I use this computer to do my job, right? The worker employs the tool. But from the perspective of capital, it's the other way around. The machine, the factory, they are the ones employing the worker. The worker becomes just another part of the machine, a part that it uses to create more value.
And if you start thinking like that, a factory that's sitting quiet and empty is a total waste, a mere loss. Its whole reason for being, its life process, is to suck in human labor and spit out profit. From this point of view, the factory almost has a right to your labor day and night, just to keep itself going.
And look, this isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. Marx actually quotes a real factory owner from back in 1849. This guy was arguing against laws to shorten the workday from 12 to 10 hours. And his argument was wild. He basically said that if you cut 2 hours off the workday, his machines would physically shrink in value by a sixth.
So for him, a machine wasn't just a pile of metal. Its value was tied directly to how many hours of human work it could absorb. And that leaves us with a really big question, especially for today. In our world of increasing automation, if a machine's value is all about the human labor it consumes, what happens to that value when it doesn't need us at all?